And thank you to whoever had the phone ring just now. It reminded me to mute my own phone. So thank you for that. Point of order as we begin the questioning here. I noticed that each of you stood. Tim Denson started this. You each stood. Don't feel compelled to do that. Do what you want. But if you choose to remain seated, I think things might flow a little better if we do that a little more quickly. So, but again, that's going to be your choice. Mara Zuniga, you have the microphone. So the first question will go to you. Well, you're getting the microphone. So the first question will go to you, and we'll work our way down, and then we'll work our way back. That's the way we'll go with this the rest of the evening. I put out a call for questions on my radio program, on my social media. I asked listeners and followers and friends to send me questions. A great many of them did. One kept insisting. This guy was persistent. He sent me 3 or 4 messages. Don't ask about homelessness. Don't ask about affordable housing. Guess what we're going to ask about first? Yeah, exactly. And those 2 issues, some will merge those into a single issue. We're going to give you some time. Let's take right out of the gate. Let's give them 90 seconds to answer this question because it's a large question. If we need to ask it again, we will. But Mara Zuniga, starting with you, tackle those questions. Affordability is the buzzword, the lack of affordable housing. What's causing it? What can we do about it? What, if anything, does that have to do with homelessness?
What does that have to do with homelessness?
Yes.
Okay. So to build affordable housing, I've spoken to a few developers, and the cost of building is just too high. I mean, we are trying to tackle something that is a national problem. Building costs and interest rates are really affecting affordability in this town. But what we got to look at is the wages. You know, people are still not earning enough to buy properties. And when we look at also wages, we also have to look at taxes because it's a problem that involves a lot of people that, first of all, if you have a property and your taxes go up, right, you won't be able to afford your property. You might have to sell it, move out, or you may become homeless. So a lot of people, when you look at affordability of something, you have to start looking at the affordability from a homeowner first, because you want people to keep their wealth. Now, we have had policies put out there that keeps people, we want to raise taxes so that we can make more things happen in Athens, but that's really not the way to go. We have to look at what the priorities are so that we can put those things first.
Thank you. Sharon Miller.
On affordability, here's my perspective, is that the model of cities have changed over the years. And what has happened in the forecast of Athens is that the urbanization of living has now come inside the city limits. And because we are building with such density in our downtown Cardinals, that is the new trend. We have to have some ownership as to what do we do with the residents who are now being displaced in some way. There are many systemic factors that cause people not to be able to afford a home. Our candidate Zummer has said that it's wages sometime it's homelessness, the unhoused, the functional homelessness. There are many, many things that can cause the issue of homelessness. But I think that we must look at, with this future land map that we have to look at it critically to see if we can look at building single dwelling homes so that our residents may have a chance to chase the American dreams. There are many complex issues, not just single dwelling homes, but that we have to make the homes that are being built affordable. We'll talk more.
Yes, we will. Thank you very much. Dr. Gant, the issues of affordability, housing affordability, and homelessness.
Thank you for the question. One thing that I want to point out is that according to our own affordable housing investment strategy report, we have about, I think it was 56, subsidized rental units that have been built since 2020, okay? And then in Athens, 47% are homeowners, okay? What that tells us is that We want people to have access to homes, but also everyone may not choose that path. And so we have to begin to explore options for affordable housing communities. The report is clear. Subsidizing these efforts are critical. They are critical. So that's one. Also, I think we have to strengthen our partnerships with services that are already here. We have services that provide care. We have services that provide a wraparound sort of interventions for people that are unhoused. I believe that we forget about those. And part of our job is to figure out ways that we can expand that for individuals. We know that most people who find themselves unhoused at this moment they had become homeless within the past like 6 months. And so what that tells us is that this is something that is complex, it's evolving, and it's going to take a multi-pronged approach.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Tim. I think everybody has alluded to this. What's going on in this country, the affordability piece is large and it's complex. We own 300 acres of land right now, right across from Bunny Harris Middle School. My plan would be to use that property to work with private developers, get them tax incentive to build affordable homes. So we have to look at property like that we have available here that's untouched, that we can do, that's got sewer and water, it's already in place, where we can build affordable homes for people in this community. Wouldn't it be ideal for school teachers that can live there, walk right across the street to Bernie Harris? So for me, that would be one of the things that we can do. From a perspective, when we're looking at the unhoused people in our community, then one thing we have to look at, and I talked about it in my opening statement, is we got jobs coming to this community. We got to get people trained. We got Myers that are coming to town. They're going to employ 1,700 people, $65,000 a year starting out. So we got to get those individuals trained, get them into those jobs, get them out of poverty, in a hopefully opportunity to get them into housing or even into apartments. But those type of things we got to look at when we start attracting industries here and making sure they're paying a living wage so people can afford to live here and enjoy life here in Athens.
And finally, Tim Denson.
Yeah, as it's been said, I mean, housing is an extremely complicated issue, but there are things that we can do, and there's been communities that have figured this out. I try to talk about in three different segments. There's first where we need to be helping folks out with workforce housing, working class Athenians, people who right now are over the area median income, and that really is something. The way we tackle the housing costs for them, because housing is too expensive for all of us. It doesn't matter how much wealth you have; it's too expensive for all of us. So that first group, that is where the supply and demand comes down to. We do not have enough supply of housing here. When we look at communities, even as close as Atlanta, which has increased their supply, they have actually seen housing costs stabilize and in some areas go down. Completely different trend than most of the rest of the country. The next big part is, where we have to start getting into the subsidy sum. This is where programs like our inclusionary housing policy, where that way that works is that whenever a developer comes in, they're gonna build something, we make an agreement so that, like, say 10% of their housing will be designated as affordable. That can help the folks who are at 60 to 100% of the area median income, who need some help. The hardest part is gonna be that deep subsidy though. We have a lot of people here who are drastically in poverty below the 60% area median income part. That's where we need to have social housing. We have not been building up enough. The Athens Housing Authorities are really our only agency that's really been doing that. And I think the local government working with the state, the federal government, and the housing authority, along with private developers, needs to start getting into that social housing aspect too. And the homelessness, that's just too big. Hopefully we'll have another question on that one.
We will take another bite out of that apple, but since you have the microphone, and we'll start with you and work our way back on this one. And this was a question, and understand I have a big stack of cards just from this room alone, my email, my Facebook, and all of the questions that were provided in advance, put together by some of the folks at Athens Classic. No shortage of questions, but several of them repeated themselves. And Tim Denson, your name was included specifically in several of those. One in particular, the issue, and it was raised a moment ago, defunding police. Your tenure as an Athens Clarke County Commissioner, you were behind a proposal that would have, and correct anything I get wrong here, but my memory is the proposal would have been to reduce funding for the Athens Clarke County Police Department by 50% over a 10-year period. Some call that defunding police. The question is, as a public safety matter, where are you now on that issue? And we'll let the other candidates as well speak to the issue specifically of funding for law enforcement in Athens Clarke County.
Sure. So yeah, that proposal would basically was to move 5%, reallocate 5% from direct law enforcement into wraparound services such as behavioral health services, such as resource allocation, having people like street outreach teams out there actually trying to connect people to resources. And that was part of that program. An exciting part about that is that we actually did fund a number of the things from that proposal in that year's budget and in subsequent budgets. One of the biggest parts being our co-responder units that we now have increased greatly here in Athens Clarke County because they work. Because we should not be expecting our police officers to have to be the people who understand the homelessness issue and solve it for us. We should not be expecting police officers to be the ones that actually know about behavioral health and mental health specialties and how to get people who are in a mental health crisis back where they need to be, stabilized. We've been putting too much on our police forces, not just here in Athens, but across the entire country, and expecting them to solve all of our problems. I don't think that's fair for them, and I don't think it's fair for the community, because we need those police officers to be out there tackling those violent crimes and dangerous crimes and making sure that we are all safe, but not, again, being social workers, not being caseworkers, not being therapists.
Commissioner Fisher, the question of funding for law enforcement.
Well, first of all, I would never defund our police department. First of all, if you look on public safety, is so critical in our community. Two things we've done since I've been on that commission. We funded and staffed our real-time crime center. It was not in the mayor's budget. With me being the mayor pro tem, I put it back in the budget. We fund the real-time crime center fully. So we got a real-time crime center now. Secondly, we got more police officers in the history of this community. We fully staffed. That's unheard of in public safety. So we fully staffed. Third thing we've done, we're making sure that our officers are paid well, make sure that our sheriff department is paid well, our probation office is paid well, and our warden office is paid well. So I'm always gonna be an advocate for the men and women that work in public safety. And we need those men and women to know that they're supported by their local government. And I will support them 100%. That's never gonna change. We're gonna continue to help them do their job, make sure they got the equipment, make sure they have the vehicles in order to perform in this community. What has happened to Athens, when I moved here in 1988, we was a small community. Now we're an urban community with urban problems. So we need our police department, our public safety, and also our fire department. We can't forget about them. They do a yeoman's job, making sure that this community stays safe. And we just gave them a nice raise with their union contract. So public safety is my #1 priority moving forward with this community.
Dr. Gant.
Thank you. Can you ask the question again for me?
Probably not, but I will try. Broadly stated, it has to do with funding the Athens Clarke County Police Department. Again, Commissioner Denson, as commissioner, was part of a movement to, as he would say, reallocate some of the resources. What would you do with funding as mayor? And understand the mayor's role in setting the budget. What would you do? What would you put police and fire and law enforcement?
And so if you take a look at our budget, a significant portion of our budget goes towards public safety. While I do believe that it is important, for instance, for violent crimes to be solved, and for us, if I have an issue, I'm calling 911. I also think, though, we have to understand that there is no profession in this world that is beyond critique. As a psychologist, I often tell myself my goal should be to work myself out of a job. I want a world that does not need psychologists. I want an Athens that does not have to rely on the significant presence of law enforcement officers. But this is where we are at this moment. I believe also that in addition to wages, Those are important. But we also have to set standards for professionals that are in the business of interacting with the public. And I don't believe that any office, I don't believe any discipline, even public safety, is beyond that expectation. So I do believe that we need to do more, not just to professionalize this field, but also with professional development. The reality is there are people in our community that don't feel safe. When we talk about public safety, there's also the other side of that. And so to me, public safety goes all around. It's for officers, but it's also for citizens.
Okay, well, and we'll get back to that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sorry.
Sharon Miller.
For me, I just want to answer the question at hand. And if we need to deal with other components of the policing skills, I'm sure we'll deal with them. But I am a champion for public safety. I think that our community and communities are as healthy and safe and vibrant as their public safety division is. So I am a champion for that. I would support that they receive all that within our budget can give to them so that they may continue to keep us safe as we live in community.
And Mayor, before you surrender the microphone, but just one quick question, nothing to do with law enforcement. I just remembered your opening statement. You said you moved to Athens, not from here. Where are you from originally, if I may ask?
I am frightened to say that in this setting. I hail from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
But I have Georgia on my mind.
Okay. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. Mara Zuniga.
I think one of the candidates said champion. I would have to say I will champion for public safety. I hear you. I hear the community when I go out there. People don't feel safe. There is crime. The homeless people are being afraid of the woods. There's crimes in there. I've spoken to firefighters, what they find. So I have to say this. I will champion for public safety because it has to do with gangs, our children getting involved with them. You know, we need parks. We need to fund the park activities, recreation centers. I am the type of person, if I would have been in office, you wouldn't have to have written to me a letter to say that you're concerned and that you want the real-time crime center. I wouldn't have been the person that needed to have a petition sent around the community for me to say that I was for the real crime center. There are issues, I mean, there are valid questions as to surveillance, but I went down to the real-time crime center and asked those questions that people were asking. I would be the person that you would not need to have to write to about your safety. The safety that you're feeling is not being addressed.
Hold on to the microphone. Another law enforcement related question, this dealing with federal law enforcement. Much discussed, obviously, the issue of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol and other federal entities in our nation's larger cities. We've seen some of the demonstrations locally. What would be your position as mayor? Mara Zuniga, we'll start with you. Your position as mayor on cooperation with ICE?
Well, this question was asked on the last debate. My answer remains the same. This is a two-part question. One is, what is the legality behind that? If you look at an email that went out in 2023 where the city manager and the attorney looked at, is this a sanctuary city? And that's what really, it determines what we can cooperate with ICE or not legally. And the memo pretty much stated that Athens is not a sanctuary city. And because it's not a sanctuary city, that means that our law enforcement has to cooperate with ICE. So that's not something that the mayor can say, I can or cannot do. Anybody that will say that they can do or not do with ICE or cooperate, they risk putting Athens in danger of funding and other situations. So that wouldn't be something that the mayor would have power to change. And Mayor Kelly Gertz made that clear, as well as the commissioners, because nobody in that commission back in 23, and I believe Dexter Fisher was also in the commission in 2023 when that was made clear, no one went against that policy that was pretty much said that we don't have a sanctuary city. Now, personally, on a different note, I do speak to the Spanish community. I know what the fears are. And I know that the police are trying very hard to regain some of that trust because of misinformation that's out there about ICE and how the police department will treat the Hispanic community. Now, I sat down with the police department. They are not here to do immigration enforcement. They are here to look at crime. Now, if they happen to be an immigrant that caused the crime, it would be the same thing as if they were a citizen. They would be arrested.
Okay, we'll leave it there, and we may come back to that. I'll reserve that right. Sharon Miller.
In this climate that we're living in, none of us can ever say that our cities will ever be safe from the encroachment of what's happening with ICE and all of its interference with cities across the United States. However, it is true that ICE and its presence in cities, that the mayor's role is to the mayor's role in this type of situation does not have the authority to execute, but follow what the law says. And so those are the protocols, and that is what I would follow, keeping our citizens safe, but understanding what the guidelines are. So therein, we would operate this city.
Dr. Gant, the issue of ICE.
As mentioned, it's been mentioned by two of my colleagues, there is an element there that is beyond the mayor, and not just the mayor, but also our sheriff and law enforcement control. And so I don't imagine any of us up here plan on violating the law. I can speak for myself, but also I would guess that that would not be our approach as well. But I want to make clear that because a city cooperates with ICE, that does not mutually exclude us from being sure that we allow our neighbors and our community members who are part of the immigrant community know that they are a part of our community. And unfortunately, in this conversation, this very national conversation that gets very local, it gets very nasty, in the process of that, we create that as like it's an either or. And it's not an either or. A lot of this is how do we go out of our way to be sure that our immigrant community feels safe, feels that they belong, and that their humanity is recognized. And I do believe whoever is in leadership, mayor, commission, that is part of our role as being leaders of Athens.
Thank you. Dexter Fisher, Commissioner Fisher.
I think most of us agree, at least three and myself also agree with how we deal with ICE. And again, I think at the last debate, at least once a week, I reach out to our chief and to our sheriff. And, one of the things we always ask is there any activity going on in our community? Most of the time, the answer is no. There's not any activity going on in our community. I think for us, we have to, it's a federal law, so we have to follow the law. No mayor, no commission can make those decisions. So we have to follow what's on the books and what the law says. We have to do that. But I think it's important for us, though, to make sure, and I'm piggyback on Dr. Gant, that everybody that lives in this community feels safe. I think that's important. We need to make sure that people that live here, that have came here, they feel safe. We need to make sure that our police officers are not going out looking for people. The sheriff department is not going out looking for people. Now, if they get a warrant, that warrant could be for anybody. They'll go serve that warrant. But our local law enforcement are not doing those things. And I think the community needs to know that. I think sometimes things get thrown out there that's not true, but those things are not happening. And as your mayor, I'll be constantly in contact with the police department and with our sheriff, making sure that everybody's lockstep and make sure we're on the same page. And I think that's important.
And finally, Tim Denson, the issue of ICE.
Well, going back to the previous subject, public safety, making sure the public feels safe. I can tell you this, that there's a lot of people, the public in our community, who don't feel safe because of what's going on with ICE right now. And That is why I will, if I am elected, I will do everything I can legally to not be working with ICE and not having the people. Hey, strong statements get strong reactions. And so and because the thing is, right now there are legal limitations. But there's also legal opportunities in the state of Georgia. We have seen municipalities across the state of Georgia enter into contracts with ICE in which they are using municipal resources and individuals to help ICE find people in their own communities and detain them. That is happening here in Georgia. And that is one of the things that I would ensure is not going to happen in our community. Because first and foremost, we need to be keeping our people safe. And this is the other thing, right? It's not even effective. I said this at the last thing. You can look into this because whenever there is a bad actor in the immigrant community or in the undocumented community, they don't want to come to law enforcement if they're scared that they might be detained themselves. So they come to law enforcement to tell about some other kind of crime or criminal behavior that's happening. It's not even effective for its own goal. And what it's doing is it's terrorizing communities. We can look at Minneapolis, we can look at many other places, but we can also look at mayors like in Minneapolis and in LA and other places that have actually taken some creative actions to restrict the ability for ICE to come into their communities.
All right, Tim Denson, now we'll leave it there. One more law enforcement question, and then I promise we'll change the subject. It occurred to me a moment ago, we spent a lot of time earlier talking about police, the Athens Clarke County Police Department. Sheriff Williams would not forgive me if I didn't mention the Athens Clarke County, the Clarke County Sheriff's Office as well. I was in a news conference some months ago with him when he was discussing the latest inmate overdose death. There have been, somebody tell me, 3 or 4 of those within the last year in the Clarke County Jail alone. He spoke of a great many problems that contribute to that one problem, in addition to a great many others, but it all bottom line to the issue of funding, the lack of resources. Speak specifically to what you could do as mayor to assist the Clarke County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely supported what the commission did previously, and which was to try to match the rate that the sheriff's deputies were getting with the police. I think that equity needed to happen, and I'm glad it happened, and I supported that. But when we're going to talk about it, it's difficult. One of the things we need to do is we have a limited workforce in that jail. The deputies are overburdened with having to do too much. So one thing you can do is have more deputies, just put more deputies in there. Very expensive, going to cost all of us a lot of money. Or we can look into reducing how many people are actually in the jail and have to be supervised by those deputies. One of the biggest things is, again, here in the state of Georgia and across the country, how are we dealing with homelessness? We're trying to arrest it away. We are arresting people constantly for loitering, for trespassing into like shopping centers and such, and we're putting them in jail. And here's the thing, y'all, that's really expensive. It's more expensive than a hotel room per day. Plus, you're paying for their health care. You're paying for their mental health meds when they go in there. I mean, I know y'all don't like this, but it's true. It's happening right now, and your tax dollars are going to it. So what we could do is be more effective and work to try to actually deal with those issues that are putting people in jail, because that's not actually, we're seeing recidivism. There's people that's coming in and out, in and out. I actually know of an individual who was homeless, who had a massive abscess tooth that was driving the client absolutely crazy. They intentionally got arrested so they could go to jail so they could use insurance to have it dealt with. Is that effective governance? Is that effective law enforcement? I don't think it is.
All right. Commissioner Fisher.
So we did raise the deputy sheriff pay raise to match what was going on with our police department. Again, I speak with our law enforcement a lot, and Sheriff Williams is doing a yeoman's job trying to get more deputies hired. He just told me he got 10 people in the academy. So hopefully once they come out, they can start working. And again, we don't want our jails to be overflown. We really don't. One of the programs that they're doing, they started a program for women doing construction, training them how to do construction jobs. So when they do get out, they have an opportunity to go to work and they're not going back to jail. So some of the things that they're doing in our jail population is trying to make sure that people that are locked up, that we try to get them a skill set so they won't go back in, get them a decent paying job with a decent paying wage, so they won't have to end up going back into the jails. I think what's important for us to realize is when our jails get overcrowded, then it become a problem. And that's when danger happens. That's when our deputies and our detention officers can't maintain the jail. So we want to make sure that if those individuals are getting trained, that then once they're out, they're not coming back. So I'm going to continue to support our sheriff department. Hopefully we can get more our deputies hired. So again, that will cut down on some of the things that may go on there. And also keep in mind, they also protect our courts. So we need to make sure that we have trained deputies so they can come in order to do their job. Thank you.
Lakeisha Gant.
As it relates to the jail, I do think it's important to look at, there has to be equity between not just the police department, but individuals that are working directly with our incarcerated community members. But I want to just make a note that right now in our jail, we have individuals that do not get visitation. They do not have face-to-face visitation. And while we have programs are great, but we also have to be stewards of the things that we start. And so just because we have a program, individuals or our women who have had access to these programs, do we follow them when they are released? Do we provide them with the resources that they need once they're released? I can tell you, just in general, as a psychologist and being a part of the mental health community, we do not. And as someone mentioned earlier, we cannot, as much as we sort of talk about these things, I want us to think a little bit with more intention. There's no way that we can arrest our way out of the issues that we have. A significant portion of individuals that are locked up have mental health issues. They may have physical health issues. We have a lot of veterans that enter and exit our jails. So we have to be serious. One of the platform areas for me is mental health. We have to be serious about building that capacity to provide services in Clark County.
Sharon Miller.
I am glad as I listen to the exchange that I'm more than just a clergy. My bivocational profession when I work with the Department of Juvenile Justice is that, yes, we have to look at if some of those who are in jail have recidivism problems, they have the mental health issues, they have the homeless, and our dear veterans are there. Complex. It's very, very complex. As a mayor, I would sit down with our Sheriff Williams and talk about what's happening, and I would secure dialogue with other jurisdictions around our county, other cities, to see how are they addressing this issue. And I want to pause and say that we're sorry and give our grievance to those persons who died. There are sometimes many days go by before families are notified. So there are some issues that's happening, but I want to salute our men and women who are giving their very best with what they have. But I would do an assessment, ask questions, and come up with a concrete plan of action from my level. There's not much that the mayor can do, but I would want to find out and bring solutions, if we could, from this level.
Thank you. And Mara Zuniga.
Well, I visited the jail, and I spoke to Sheriff Q, and it seemed to me that he's doing a good job, actually. The jail is underfunded, the Sheriff's Department is underfunded. It has not kept up with a lot of the other departments. I do believe it's a good place to start for people. I can't see how it's more compassionate to have people loitering and be on the streets and in the woods than if you get somebody off the streets and try to get them some resources. So I do think that trying to get the people off the street for their well-being, because a lot of these folks have mental problems, right? Like we said, drug problems. So we want to connect them to resources. And if we have to take them to the jail, I see the sheriff, he's a very compassionate man. Like I said, I've sat down with him. He has told me, We're not here to do enforcement of immigration. We are not here to put people in jail and keep them here. He wants to connect resources. I also saw what the women were doing there. They also have an art class to have people, connect to, something that is worthwhile. So they're doing a lot considering that they have been underfunded and understaffed.
Shifting gears, moving away from law enforcement, I want to talk about some economic development issues. And let's start with the mall, the Georgia Square Mall, a deal that had been evidently in the works for a period of time has evidently collapsed. What should be done? What would you as mayor work to do with that property? Mara Zuniga.
Well, I've had a lot of opinions from people in the public about the mall, and I think that a lot of the folk that have knowledge in what happened in the mall get really suppressed with the information. They try to bring out what was going on. They saw that it wasn't going to work out, and yet the local government would not listen to people in the community that had a lot of knowledge, that read all the information on the mall. That's important to get people involved. And the problem is that in the local government, we have the same type of thinking folk that consult the same people that think like them to try to solve problems to come to the same conclusion. And so what we need to do is get folk who have experience in finance, in business, in development, and sit down with them, because those are the folks that we have to sit down with, not people that think like us. It's people that will challenge us, that will challenge what we're supposed to be doing. And that means a lot of the folk in this community that don't have a voice right now. Thank you.
Sharon Miller.
Listen, the mall was a failed initiative. It failed. It probably failed because when I stood in the beginning, I said that I was running to be a game changer and a leader with integrity, that our commissioners could have political strength to make good decisions on behalf of the community. I would investigate what's in place. I'm on this side, so there are a lot of questions that you can't answer, but I would investigate to see what we could do with that space. And if it's a structure that's already there, it certainly would be a primary place to look at homeless, answering the question about homelessness and putting some people in there. When I spoke to the veterans last week, they said, is it possible that our developers can make room for our veterans? Something creative has to come out of that space that will be effective for our community. So I would examine it, I would ask, and see can something come out of it. I see that you don't want housing there, but it has to be used for something that's going to be useful for our community.
All right, Dr. Gant.
Yes, I am going to just point out, we were just talking about housing and homelessness. And at some point, we have to provide a place for people. We have to work to solve that problem. I do think, so when this project came before the school board, I was skeptical and I did not vote for it because once there are so many moving pieces, things start happening and things move very slow in government. And before you know it, you have a product that no one envisioned is turned into something else. And also, I did not agree with pausing what the school district would receive while we sort of waited on that to be developed. I would love to see that space reimagined, particularly for our aging population. We have an aging population in Athens. There are individuals, we sort of forget about people unless they're like our age. Not everybody is ready to go to a retirement community. Not everyone fits a skilled nursing facility. But I can tell you there are a lot of people in Athens who want companionship. They want community. They are overpaying taxes on their homes. Their homes are too big. And I would like to see us reimagine that space. And that will take also collaboratives with developers, I'm sure. But I think we can be creative.
All right, Commissioner Dexter Fisher.
Thank you, and I want to echo my colleague here, Dr. Gant. I was working for the school system when that came upon us, and I had recommended to our school board not to support that because I thought it would affect the taxes with the school district. However, I want you all to know our local government have not spent any money on that mall. Matter of fact, the attorney that was representing us, the developer was paying our attorney. So we have not spent one dime on that mall at all, not one dime. Now, they are gonna come back and redevelop that space. And there's gonna be housing in that space. But we had all these community benefits that they was asking for. It was just impossible for them to get funded because of all the community benefits that the commission before us has sort of, put on them, so they couldn't do it. So that project is dead. So what's gonna happen, we're gonna vote for an overlay district. We're gonna ask them to come back with a plan and redevelop that space. I think it would be a real big economic boom for us. It would be a good tax base for us, but that project needs to be redeveloped. Belk is already an anchor there, so we're gonna talk about retail, we're gonna talk about housing, we're gonna talk about food courts. Those things need to happen, and that would increase our tax base in this community. So we're gonna redevelop that property. So those owners, those developers gonna do that, but just keep in mind, we did not spend one penny of your tax dollars on that mall.
Tim Denson, finally. 60 seconds to fix them all.
So, we have to do something with it. It is definitely disappointing what happened, but we have to do something with it. And I'm going to argue that we have to get community benefits out of it. The reason we have to is because one of the ways they're going to be using to build all that out is using the taxes from the TAD districts. They will be using our property taxes. And I do not believe that a developer should be getting our tax dollars to build something out if we're not getting community benefits out of that. That could be a lot of things, like we're gonna have the a transfer system there, have affordable housing there. The school district, as part of our agreement, was that we were gonna have a child care center there, other child supports, green space. We better get some community benefits out of that because they're gonna be getting millions of our tax dollars. I don't wanna give that money away for free if the community's not getting something back for it.
Approaching the top of the hour, let me lay out the next half hour for you. Told you we'd have you out of here in 90 minutes, so about a half hour left to go. Maybe a couple of more questions, and then we'll wrap it up with closing statements to get us to the bottom of the hour. And I want to get to a couple of things really quickly here. And this one, you don't even have to, just answer and pass the mic. This is a one-word, two-word answer here. It was a question that was submitted. It is none of my business, and you can tell me that. But I think it's a fascinating question. The questioner wants to know, and again, one word is all that's needed, or 3 words, none of your business, that'd be 4. Who'd you vote for in the last election, Trump or Harris, Tim Denson?
I voted for Harris, but I also got a minute, so I want to talk about childcare.
No. Let's.
I don't get a minute.
No, you don't. That's a one word.
The people want to hear about childcare.
We'll get to it, or you can get to it in your closing statement. But yeah, remind me, and we'll get back to it.
I voted for Harris and Walsh, and I've been a Democrat my whole life, so I don't make no qualms about that. So I voted for Walsh and Harris.
All right, Dr. Gant.
Harris, absolutely.
And Sharon Miller.
This is a nonpartisan race, and the focus of my mayorship will be to help all people.
All right. I'll take that as a no comment. And Melissa Niga.
I agree with Sharon. This is a nonpartisan race, and it's private for a reason.
All right.
It's nonpartisan so we can help everyone here in Athens, not just one portion of Athens.
And you can hang on to the mic, and we'll start the next round of questioning with you. All right, Tim Denson brought it up. Is there a role for local government to play in the issue of childcare? If so, what might it be?
No, childcare is not a local issue.
All right, fair enough. If you want to pass the microphone, if you want to elaborate.
Well, if you're going to look at childcare, I go back to wages. I'm a person that grew up in business from second grade on, and I try to encourage people to have some sort of additional wage. You know, I encourage people to have a sidekick. It gives you self-reliance. And you have to understand from an immigrant point of view, when we come to the United States, we have nothing. We come here with nothing but a dream. So when we come here, we don't have the same benefits as citizens. So we have to look for a way. I come from a family of 7 kids. We didn't have childcare back then. We didn't have a lot of things. So we had to look for how to make more money. Like I said, my father had a trade, my mother had a trade, and we put that into business. And by doing that was the only way that we can get ahead and try to pay other things. So if we continue to try and get people for more benefits from an immigrant point of view, and you will understand when you see a lot of immigrants, they get into, like Dexter Fisher said last time, and I have to correct him when he says immigrants, because we're not bundled in a box, you know? Immigrants are people that migrate from one country to the other, but when we're here, we're both legal and illegal. And when you talk about people needing immigrants because of their landscaper and construction people, that's quite wrong. There are business people, there are doctors, there are lawyers here in Athens that are immigrants that maybe didn't have a paper, maybe had a visa, you know, and they just worked their way through. So I have to say, for me, from an immigrant point stance, I would try to get people to have more wages, you know, get a better quality of life so that they can support themselves.
Let's wrap that up. Sharon Miller, again, the question of the local government role, if there is one, in childcare.
Say again.
Is there a role for local government to play in childcare?
A role? No, not directly, because the child care perspective that happens in community, most of it is state and federal funded. So no, not directly. It is not.
Fair enough. Dr. Gant.
I would love to see us explore options to partner for childcare. You know, we expect people to be healthy, law-abiding citizens that contribute to their families in meaningful ways. And there are opportunities for us to leverage partnerships with local providers. Now, would that be for all people in Athens? Perhaps not, but I do believe it's an opportunity for our colleagues in ACC Gov, okay? Maybe even with our teachers. But, you know, we have lost a sense of community. And while it's not the government's role to replace that community, we can facilitate that community through the decisions that we make. And so I do believe that there is a role. I do believe there is a need for us to explore options for individuals that work in Athens, that live in Athens, that have childcare needs.
Dexter Fisher, Commissioner Fisher.
So I'm gonna agree with Dr. Gant. There is a role that we should play, but the role should be working with some of our private industries here. Again, one of the conversations that I had with Miser was, would they be interested in maybe developing some type of child care entity, either on their campus or with a local provider? I think one of the things we need to look at is we got 13,000 children under the age of 5 in this community, 13,000. We only got 36 healthcare providers in this community, so we well understaffed for child care. So one of the things I would want to promote and push was, let's talk with some of our industry leaders and say, hey, can you all help our community with child care? Either put something on your campus or work with another provider, help them to develop another building somewhere within this community to provide child care. Because to me, that's number one sometimes for parents. One reason why they may not go to a job, because they don't have anybody to take care of their kids. So we can increase our child care developers here in this community. I think it could be a win-win, but I think we have to work with our private industries, start having those conversations, and that would be one of the things I would do with Mayor. If you come to town and do business with us, what can you help us with when it comes to child care?
Tim Denson, it sounds like you have a plan. Let's hear it.
I do, and I'm glad there's other folks getting on board with this. And actually, excitingly, we've already taken some steps with the last SPLOST. One of the things I worked with my colleagues to get was actual language in there saying that we could use some of the funding to actually develop an ACC Gov childcare center in one of the buildings. And if and when the courthouse finally gets built, it is very possible that we would have a child care center there for ACC Gov employees. This idea is so cutting edge that was actually presented at the Council of Mayors in DC. But the idea that I have now is that, and I would love to see more employers have those things. That's great. But we have a lot of low-income folks who don't have high wages. And you know what? A lot of times it's because they can't have both parents go to work, or a single parent, they're so strapped to what hours they even can work. So let's give them some support, some childcare, so they can go and get a higher paying wage, so they can go back to school and get that education. We should all be about this. It's a multi-generational approach. But the way I want to do this is, yes, to have a subsidy program where we can actually be giving money to private childcare providers in exchange for a certain number of subsidized openings for low-income kids that will be able to go into that. And the way I want to fund it is by starting to put regulation fees on vaping, because it's a massive issue we have here in our community and across the entire state and across the country, in which we regulate the fees, so we get fees from every person, every business that sells vapes, plus we'd regulate it so that vapes could not be sold any longer within 5,000 feet of a school, which they are being done all over the place now, and many other communities have taken those steps. So it actually tackles multiple issues with a massive community benefit to get more child care for families who need it.
All right, Tim Denson, hang on to the microphone. Huge issue in, I don't know, a couple dozen counties in Georgia already, coming soon to a community near you, the issue of data centers. What should the Athens-Clarke County position, if there is to be a county position on data centers, what should it be?
I don't think we need to have data centers here in Athens-Clarke County. Literally nobody has provided an argument to me of what benefit they will bring to the people who live here in Athens. I do know the cost, what it would be for them using up our energy grid, for them using up our fresh water, for them using up our land, because these things are often huge, for making noise for neighborhoods that have to be next to them. I think we have some great industries that are already going on here, and I don't think we need to be getting into that business. And I definitely support the moratorium that's in place right now and us putting an ordinance in place that basically, outside of a really small data center of what like the hospital might have in here just for their daily operations, outside of those, anything larger than that has to go through for full commission approval so that the entire community is notified whenever that's coming through, and they can actually come out and speak to their commissioners, speak to the mayor about what they want or don't want. That ordinance should be coming forward in the next couple months, and I look forward to seeing that discussion.
Commissioner Fisher.
So if you watch the commission meeting on this past Tuesday at our agenda setting, had a lot of people come to the podium and speak against data centers. And as a commissioner and as a commission, we decided to send it back to the planning commission. We are gonna probably do another 90-day moratorium on our data centers. It's obvious that this community do not want data centers, and I would support that 100%. And I think what's really interesting about that, a lot of these data centers are springing up in the state of Georgia because of the tax incentives that's going on here, and a lot of those spring up all over, especially in small communities that don't have a tax base. So data centers is what's driving these small communities. But in this community, the residents here are not in support of data centers, and I always will support the people who have elected me. So no data centers. We'll see what'll come out after 90 days. We have the opportunity to vote on that, and then we can move forward with that.
Dr. Gant.
Yes, I do support the moratorium, but I want to also say the data center shouldn't have been here in the first place, okay? But that's just how complex and how lost like decisions get when there's a lot of stuff going on. And so with the current data center, that sort of slid under the radar. And so I think that we have to be a little bit more intentional as just leaders in our community. I think we have to be connected with our communities enough to know what's happening there, what's being built there. But now that we are at this place, I think we also have to have real conversations about the environmental impact. We are just, I won't even say getting through the issue on Pittard Road, where the water had been contaminated for decades. And it had led to sickness within that community. And so I think we have to be more intentional We have to be more aware. And while putting a pause on it is important, we also have to do some of the preventative work also.
Sharon Miller.
I would say on data centers, no, not just intentional. We have to be very, intentional and forceful that we hold the line before we make decisions, and our community is not aware. That's not wise governance. I would, as mayor, number one question I always ask: have we informed the residents? Because they deserve to know, not at the end, but they should be our number one priorities. No to data centers.
Mara Zuniga.
So when data centers come up, it's very confusing to me because on the one hand, I worked with a community in inner East Athens where families live next to a quarry and their houses are falling apart from the blasting. And they've complained frequently to the local government about this problem. And they claim that we need water, that because of the drought, we need to continue making the reservoir a little bit larger. And so they have to put up with it. So if we need water, why are we going to put a data center that absorbs a lot of water? See, that doesn't make sense to me. The other issue is that they require a lot of acres. Aren't we looking for properties to put up more affordable housing? I mean, we could literally put manufactured homes like Mr. Coleman, who's come up with a plan for manufactured homes. Wouldn't that be a better situation to put there? Housing? I mean, we're talking about affordable housing. We could do affordable housing for veterans. We could do affordable housing for the aging. That's where we could put affordable housing instead of data centers that have so much acres. The other thing is, I work in environmental hazard situations. So to me, this is an environmental hazard.
All right, hold on to the microphone. Last question, and then closing statements. So last question, and I love the question. This one's submitted. You got 1 minute to answer, I think, a huge question. What are you willing to cut from the budget without raising taxes? You have to balance the budget. What will you cut without raising taxes? Mara
You know,
Zuniga.
we're inheriting a large deficit. Anyone who goes into being a mayor is going to be inheriting a problem. Our infrastructure is $30 million in deficit. We want to build, but we don't have infrastructure, right? So we have to start looking at what the core responsibilities of the government are. So when you're looking at what are we going to cut, anything that's not a core responsibility, that's what we have to cut. Not to be specific, but we need to start funding what we're paying taxes for, and those are the core responsibilities.
Sharon Miller.
I will be willing to lead this narrative by cutting anything that's non-essential to our lives. Public safety, our public safety, our waste, all of those kinds of things, they are essential. Non-essential things will probably have to be reduced at some fraction. I don't know, because I don't have the budget. I'm not on that side of the seat yet. But then sometime leadership shows up and take the example of leadership. If our city is faced with a budget of $1.9 million, sometime it may take that mayor taking a leap of real leadership and say, hey, I'll take a reduction in my salary. I'll show what it really means, because I would rather do that than have some other department take a cut for their family. If you're going to be a real leader, lead by example.
Dr. Gant, cut something for the budget.
I've thought about this. We have, most people, I think, may be familiar with SPLOS. And our SPLOS programs there are big feelings, a variety of different feelings about SPLOS. I tend to think that there are too many projects that make it on our SPLOS list. And as a result, we're not able to take care of things like infrastructure. we're not able to say, okay, you know what, the next 4 years, this is what we're prioritizing. Okay, we're going to prioritize infrastructure here where it should have been years ago. And so I would like to see us narrow our focus with projects. If we're going to have a regressive tax, I think we really need to focus as a governing body on the direction that we're going and narrow the number of projects that we're focused on.
Commissioner Fisher.
So for the last 2 years, we have lowered our millage rate to help with the taxpayers in this community. And to my colleague, Dr. Kent's point, since 2005, we have spent $20 million on Jacobs, who helped do our splash projects. So the first thing I'm doing, they out of there. They're gone. I am not, I've done splash projects. I understand how those projects work. Like I said at our last debate, we built 3 new high schools, a track, and a field house under budget and on time. So what I would do is change the way that we do splash projects. But to give somebody $20 million from 2005 to the present is unacceptable. And you all don't know that. Also, the deficit, that 1.9 that you all been talking about, we just got a report. We're going to be $2 million to the good. If everything holds to July 1st, to June 30th, we're going to be $2 million to the good in reserves. So let's keep that in mind. My first 2 years, they said we was going to be running a deficit. Each time after those first 2 years, we have a surplus. So the earth is not falling.
All right. Dexter Fisher, by the way, in the interest of full disclosure, my wife was employed for a number of years by Jacob, so you and I will talk when we're done here. Finally, Tim Denson, cut something from the budget.
Instead, why don't we add money to the budget? And we do that by diversifying our revenue. Oh, y'all don't want the county to have money, okay. So we diversify, because right now we've already taken steps with our homestead exemption, which is already reducing how much we get from property taxes. There is a limit to how far you can go with sales taxes. So we have to get creative and we have to diversify those things. Just like, if you went and talked to your investment, who's controlling your investments, they're gonna tell you to diversify, aren't they? They are. So we need to do the same thing because you can't be relying on the same revenues over and over again. So again, one of the things I want to do is create an entertainment district like they've done in Winder, like they've done in Monroe, like they've done in Savannah, all over these places, in which then we could actually have open container with specialized cups that bars and restaurants have to purchase from the county, so we could be making millions of dollars off of this revenue, this entertainment district for new revenue. Same thing with our inclusionary parking program. We need to be expanding our sidewalks, our bike lanes, our green space, making it safer for anybody and everybody to get around. Because I don't think that any of us really want to boo people getting hit and killed in the roads. So what we could be doing there is creating an inclusionary parking program in which then they could actually be giving money to us instead of building unused parking spaces. Again, also the regulation fees.
right.
So there's a lot of different ways we could do that.
All right. And finally, we'll start the closing statements with you, Tim Denson. And you will be the first to do this, and the others will follow. A caveat with the closing statement. I like to do this. You folks have several forums, 3, 4, 5 already. You spent time together, maybe know each other a little bit. What I want you to do, by way of opening your closing statement, say something nice about the guy seated next to you. Say something nice about Dexter Fisher, Lakeisha Gant, Sharon Miller. Mara Zuniga, say something nice about Tim Denson. I can't wait for that. Tim Denson, get us started. Closing statement.
Sure thing. You know, I think Dexter Fisher is a very approachable person, and I've always been able to have good, open conversations with him. And I really appreciate that. And no matter, I think, who wins, I think those conversations will continue. Now, again, I'm hoping that y'all will vote for me on May 19th because, as we talked about here, we do have a lot of big challenges. But I actually look at that we have a lot of opportunities then to take those things on. We're gonna need creative, bold leadership to be able to get those things done. We're gonna need creative things to come up with revenues because we can't keep on relying on the same things, especially when it's possible that property taxes might be taken away by the state. We have to be creative, we have to be flexible, we have to be nimble, we have to be thoughtful. But here's the thing, I would love to, I just wanna take away from this. All of us here, all of us are doing this for the right reasons. You might disagree with some of us. You might boo some of us. One of us is going to be mayor. And I want to make sure that whoever is mayor is going to be somebody that you feel that you can go up to. I know some of y'all might not agree with me as much, but I guarantee you that if I'm elected, my door is going to be open for you. If you call me, if you ask for a coffee, I'm going to happily sit down and talk with you about that. We might disagree on some things, but I guarantee that we agree on a lot of things, and those things we can work on. And honestly, that's the only way that we're going to get out of this as a society. We have people who are suffering here. I think I might have a different approach. I do see the role of government has a role in helping people. I grew up, again, as a preacher's son. I was raised that way. You help people. I believe the main reason that we're here on this earth is to live a great life and to help each other. Do y'all agree with me? So again, we might... Okay. I think glorifying God is helping people, and it actually says that in the gospel. And so, again, let's be positive here. Let's try to get this done, y'all. We can turn against each other. We can call each other names. We can boo each other. It ain't gonna help us. Guarantee you that.
Thank you, Tim Denson. Commissioner Dexter Fisher. And again, the caveat, something nice about Dr. Gant.
Okay, thank you. And you know, I had the pleasure and opportunity to work with Dr. Gant on the school district, and always found her approachable. We got along really well. Maybe we didn't always agree, but we got along well. You know, I was sitting on the other side of the aisle. You know, she was a school board member, and I was an employee. But I'd like to think, though, when we brought information to them, they respected the information that we brought to them, and they took it to heart and tried to use it to help our school district. You know, I look around, like I said, I've been here 37 years, and part of these 37 years I've been here, I've seen this community grow. When I first moved here, UGA was 25,000 students. There were 70,000 people living in this community. But over the years, we've grown. We've grown from 40,000 students at UGA to 130,000 people in this community. And you're gonna need somebody who can understand how to connect the dots. Being mayor is not an on-the-job training. You don't know what you don't know. Until you sit behind that rail, understand and talk with 10 other people and the mayor, if you can't connect those dots, you're gonna be lost. So this is not an on-the-job training. From day one, I can hit the ground running. I can pick up the phone and make a lot of phone calls. We haven't even discussed University of Georgia and what that's gonna mean to our community and the partnerships that we need to be developing with them. From day one, that partnership is already there, from my perspective. I spent 31 years on that campus. I know how those folks over there think and how they operate. They want to be partners with us in the community. I think that's real important that we do that. But for me, I can hit the ground running. I know where the bodies are buried, because we're gonna have new commissioners, and we got to figure out how we're gonna all work together. And I understand that more than you all know. But like I said, I have led large departments. Nobody around here has done that. I've done budgets. I've balanced budgets. I hired people. I understand how that works. I can work with anybody in this community. How I put my 37 years with my integrity and the people that I've met over that time, I'll be the best mayor that you all could ever have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gant.
Thank you for those compliments, Mr. Fisher. Let me start with Pastor Miller. I want to say that I have experienced you as a balanced person, approachable, but also upbeat and positive. And I think that we underestimate that in today's society. I think most of us feel really drained just to go throughout the day. And so it means something to run into people that are optimistic about our future. So I do appreciate that. My name is Lakeisha, again, and I'm asking for your vote on May 19th. I'm gonna finish where I started. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I am sometimes a caregiver with my siblings. I am an employee, I'm a worker, and I am a servant leader. I believe that not only can we work together across our differences, but that's what government is about. We have to work together to move forward. I am the only person here that has led a governance team. And you all, it's a very different thing. It's very different. When you are leading a governance team, you have to have the capacity to connect with your colleagues. You have to have the capacity to get the majority on board. And then lastly, you have to have the capacity to focus because there are a lot of things to focus on. I have navigated challenging times with the school district. That was under my leadership. Those leadership skills have not left. I am expertise in working with systems, but more important than that, I'm not far removed from everyday people. I get to speak with a variety of different people, from veterans to people that are aging, communities that are aging, to people in need of services, just really across the spectrum of our community. And I can guarantee you that whether we agree or disagree, I can work with you and I can lead a team to solve problems.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gantz. Sharon Miller.
I want to say about my colleagues to my left, I like your swag. I like your style. I like your fierceness. I like your commitment to humanity. Now listen, I didn't rise because I'm a seasoned politician. And that shouldn't be a weakness to run for mayor. I have 30 years experience in understanding the human experience. All of the things that we're running on, I've been there with families who've been homeless. I've seen homes burned down. I've seen veterans have mental health issues. I've seen people who could not take and afford to send their children to school. I've seen crimes. I've seen it at its worst. I've seen people commit suicide. I've buried the dead. I've seen people from the first breath to the last. And I bring with that leadership, and I'm thankful, God bless his soul, President Jimmy Carter gave me the opportunity to superintend in his project, the Atlanta project, $40 million project that we superintended, 3 cities I did, to help cities navigate around these initiatives that we deal with in everyday governance. So I do not step to this plate just because I'm a faith leader. I bring to me the duality of being an effective leader. And if given a chance to be your next mayor, I will reset, I will review, I will rejuvenate, and I will take this city to new horizon. I'm the 5th candidate in. They say that number 5 means new beginnings, new horizons, balance, grounded. I bring all of those perspectives to my candidacy. I'm Sharon Miller. I aim to work with and for the citizens of Athens. Thank you.
And Mara Zaniga, before you begin, because I've done enough of these to know how this works, as soon as she finishes, you bolt. But I wanted to, before that, first of all, let's thank again Athens Classic for organizing this event. Let us thank again our host for the evening, Piedmont Athens Regional Medical Center, a wonderful facility. I've done a number of these events. This is as good a turnout as I've ever seen. And so thank you. Thank yourselves for coming out tonight and for being engaged in your community. Mara Zaniga, your closing statement, beginning with words of kindness for Tim Denson.
Well, I told Tim Denson words of kindness on our last debate. I told him I admire the fact that he's very passionate. And I told him I apologize if I came across as, not supporting some of the things that he believes in, but I know they come from a good place. So we did speak about that. You remember, Tim? Okay. So I want to address the, because we did. We talked about also either he wins or I win. I said we would still be talking to each other about, different perspectives. And I think that's one of the things that we align with. I wanted to address a little bit the part about the qualification that Dexter Fisher kind of spoke about. As far as I could see in the chart, there's only 3 qualifications to be mayor. I mean, you have to be 21 years old, 1-year resident, and a registered voter, right? I don't know where pre-politic experience comes into place. I did speak to Mayor Gertz when he was at a training, when somebody asked him, what do you think are the best things that you can, bring in? He said life skills. Okay, if that's the case, then I've been a business person for 40 years, successful business person for 40 years. I've also worked in the financial industry for 20 years. That's with very complex processes and systems. As far as being an auditor as well, you know, as in being underwriter to financial documents to businesses as well as people. So I do have experience in complex systems. Also, I want to say that being bilingual is going to help the community because I can speak directly to the third largest voting population here in Athens. And we are inheriting a huge deficit, so we need to revisit and prioritize expenditures to align with core responsibilities here in Athens. And I think me being a person whose experiences in finances would probably be the best person to see that. And finally, I want to say that do we really want to elect people that have been part of the problems in Athens? If we want solutions, then we want something new, right?
All right.
So let's start looking at people's records in reference to their votes on education, on taxes, how they voted to raise taxes, let's say, at the Board of Education, or, you know, things that have cost the taxpayer a lot of money. We need to look at those policies.
All right, Marzanika, we've got to end it there. Your time has expired, and I got to get up early in the morning. Thank you all for coming. Thank these candidates again. Thanks to KJ Producing for 95.9 The Beat. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks, William.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
You have been listening to the Athens Mayoral Forum from the Piedmont Medical Center in Athens, presented by Athens Classic Inc. This has been a presentation of Super Talk Georgia.